The bases are loaded. Sundberg is the hitter.
It'll be a tough decision, but Bobby Cox has got to start thinking of getting him out of there if he's tiring, and perhaps we'll say hanky.
Game one, just tremendous excitement in the ballpark. First playoff game ever, and you know, the crowd was excited.
Canadian Prime Minister Brian Mulroney threw out the first ball.
You know, I put it together that day pretty good, getting ahead of the hitters. You know, pretty much just shut them down. It was just a great feeling to win that first one and, you know, be on our way to possibly going to the World Series.
In Game 2, Toronto pulled it out on the bottom of the 10th to take a 2-0 lead.
That might do it. The throw from Smith. The Blue Jays win it.
The loss was a record 11th straight in the postseason for the Royals manager Dick Howser. But the skipper's confidence in himself and his ball club never wavered.
He used to have an expression, play the game hard, play the game right. We got the talent here, and as a result, we really didn't panic.
We can get it going. One game can turn this thing around. Tonight could be that game.
And then we get back to Kansas City for Game 3, and I had the best single game I ever had in my life.
A ball and a strike to Bret. Well hit, deep right. If it stays fair, the Royals are in front, and they are.
They pitched to him, which was outstanding for us, because he was the guy we obviously always counted on. But you knew that other teams knew that too.
Bret almost single-handedly built and protected a 2-0 lead. And after Saberhagen surrendered 5 runs in the 5th, Bret came up again.
Wilson at first, nobody out. Well hit to left center. Back goes Mosby, along with Bell. Forget it! Home run Bret!
Bret's second homer of the game tied the score. He finished 4 for 4 with 4 runs scored and 3 RBIs in the Royals' 6-5 win. In Game 4, the Royals took a 1-0 lead into the 9th, but couldn't hold it.
It's fair, and it's Toronto in front. 1 run in, and they're waving the second one in.
The Jays led 3-1. Needing to win 3 straight to avoid elimination, the Royals gave the ball to Danny Jackson for the first of 3 must-win games.
Jimmy Quirk always came to me when I'm stretching on the table, and he said, well, DJ, don't worry about it. You know, you pitch a bad game, we go home.
Seemingly impervious to pressure, Jackson promptly sent the series back to Canada.
This might do it. Balboni, we're going to Toronto.
In Game 6, again it was Bret who led the way.
In the air to right center. Back goes Mosby, along with Barfield. It is gone. Now, why would you want to pitch to him?
A 5-3 win got the Royals to Game 7. The Blue Jays didn't seem ready.
I didn't think I was going to have to pitch again, and you know, they battled back though. Next thing you know, it was 3-3, and I was getting the start for the last game.
Some 170 games ago, Kansas City beat Toronto and Dave Stieb 2-1, the opener of the 1985 baseball year. Tonight, a half year later, they play for the World Series. Will it be Kansas City and remarkable George Brett? Kansas City, a team that has rallied from behind all season long. Or will it be Toronto, the favorite, a team that has seen a 3-game to 1-edge erode? The Blue Jays are still perched 1 victory away from realizing the great Canadian dream. Sports presents the final game of the 1985 American League Championship Series. Tonight from Exhibition Stadium, it's the Kansas City Royals and the Toronto Blue Jays. Tonight's pregame show is brought to you by Duracell, the copper top battery. When it comes to making them last longer, we never stop. And by Anderson Window Walls. Come home to quality. Come home to Anderson. It's a cool autumn night in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. The temperature in the mid-40s for this, the final game of the American League Championship Series. It's for the pennant tonight. The Toronto Blue Jays hosting the Kansas City Royals. Good evening, everyone. When I was a kid growing up about 200 miles from here in Michigan, used to listen on Saturday night to the hockey broadcast from Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto, and Foster Hewitt, the famed announcer, would say, "Good evening, hockey fans in Canada, the United States, and Newfoundland." Well, tonight it's good evening, baseball fans in Canada, the United States, and Newfoundland, and certainly millions will be watching throughout this nation of Canada, the largest audience to ever see a baseball game, watching our telecast tonight to see whether or not it will be the Blue Jays who finally make it an international World Series. They came close, you'll remember, in 1981, the Montreal Expos, but that was the year, Monday on Monday. Rick Monday against Steve Rogers, ninth inning of the final game, homers, and it was the Dodgers who went on to the World Series, and Montreal Expos sat out the winter. Well, we know now that the St. Louis Cardinals are awaiting the winner of this game tonight. Congratulations to Whitey Herzog and that St. Louis National League team. For a report, let's go to Lynn Berman.
At Dodger Stadium, the Cardinals wouldn't come out for the pregame introduction. They saved their camera time for the postgame. In the early going, it was all Dodgers. Mariano Duncan turned in the sparkling play in the second off Terry Pendleton. In the bottom of the second, Duncan now on offense. An RBI single, 2-0 Dodgers. Duncan singled, doubled, and tripled this afternoon. And when Bill Madlock homered in the fifth inning off Joaquin Andujar, the Dodgers led it 4-1 behind Orel Hershiser, who hadn't lost all year at Dodger Stadium. But in the seventh inning, Willie McGee singles up the middle with 2 outs. Darryl Porter and Tito Landrum scored. The Dodgers' lead was cut to 4-3. And then it was Ozzie Smith again, off Tom Niedenfuhrer again. Smith homered to win Monday's game. This time, a mere triple, but it was good enough to tie the game 4-4 as McGee scampered home. But Smith was stranded at third. In the bottom of the eighth, the first pitch from Todd Worrell, Mike Marshall hit this fly ball to right that wouldn't quit. It was a home run for Marshall as Andy Van Slyke couldn't get it. 5-4 Dodgers. Marshall the hero for just half an inning. Top of the ninth, it's Jack Clark up with 2 cards aboard. The Dodgers decide to pitch to him with first base open. First pitch. It's a 3-run homer off Niedenfuhrer to win the pennant for the Cardinals. Clark's first homer in 2 months. 7-5 the final. After dropping the first 2, St. Louis swept 4. And after opening Champaign, the Cards now open the World Series on the road, either in another country or 250 miles west along Interstate 70. Back to you, Dick.
All right, Len, thanks to Clark, the Cardinals hit the jackpot today, and all the money's on the table. The Blue Jays and the Royals ready to roll for the American League Championship in Toronto. A couple of California kids, you know, when you play marbles out there on the playground, you better have your best shooter going.
Everything's on the line tonight, you know, and I was in that position in the 79 World Series. We got down to that last game. You definitely want your best pitcher on the mound, and tonight there'll be no excuses because both teams got the best going for them.
Toronto's #1 man is Dave Stieb, #1 in the American League ERA during the course of the regular year. True to form here in the playoffs, he's allowed only 1 run in over 14 innings, and he struck out 14.
Dick, he's a very emotional pitcher out on the mound. A key to Kansas City may be to try to rattle him up a little bit and get him off of his game plan. He's a very intense pitcher, and you can rattle him at times.
Bret Saberhagen, the top pitcher on the Kansas City staff, a leading candidate for the American League Cy Young Award, composed at 21 years of age. He won 20, lost only 6 during the regular year. Drama here and back home in Kansas City. Bret Saberhagen's wife is expecting their first child any moment.
He took a vicious shot off the inside of the heel in the last time out, and it could possibly cause him some trouble in this game. If he can't land on that front foot, he could be high in the strike zone.
So Bret Saberhagen, the key is to watch his control. If he's wild high, that foot may be bothering him. For Dave Stieb, try to rattle him. If you can get him off his emotional game, that could be good news for the Kansas City Royals. You picked Toronto at the start?
At this point, it could be 50-50, but I'm going to stick with the Toronto Blue Jays because they have the home field advantage.
And we're about to find out. Dave Stieb goes against Bret Saberhagen, the finale of the American League season.
44 degrees at Exhibition Stadium in Toronto with a brisk wind blowing out toward right field. By game's end, temperatures could be in the high 30s. A trip to the World Series on the line and a pair of aces on the mound. Dave Stieb for Toronto, Bret Saberhagen for Kansas City. For the last time this season, hi again, everybody. Bob Costas along with Tony Kubek. Tony, I think it's interesting to note that while Bret Saberhagen is the likely Cy Young Award winner, the man who starts the game for Toronto and who seems to begin every year as the favorite to win that award in the American League is accorded the edge. Saberhagen was 20-6, Stieb just 14-13, but I guess it's a case of what have you done for me lately?
Well, doesn't it always boil down to pitching? These two teams have played close ball games all year long. 5 of the 6 games in this championship series have been decided by 2 or less runs. Is there an edge? I think yes. Dave Stieb, the way he's pitched in this thing, and the home ballpark. Remember, Saberhagen in Kansas City had a good fastball, but he couldn't get his curveball over, an important pitch to him. And in this cold, windy weather, he may have trouble gripping the ball. But ultimately, I think, Bob, that this league championship series and the American League pennant will be decided out of the bullpen. Tom Hankey or Dan Quisenberry.
Saberhagen hit hard, of course, as Tony said in Game 3, his only appearance thus far in this series, while Stieb, in contrast, was masterful in a Game 1 victory and pitched well, although he was a little wild, 7 walks, in a no decision in Game 4. During the year, although Stieb lost 3 times to Kansas City, he pitched well in all those games. They were low-scoring contests. Saberhagen has never had much success against Toronto. So now the question, will it be an I-70 World Series with the Cardinals already qualifying, or a series better suited to an aviary with the Cardinals and Blue Jays perched atop their respective leagues? We'll find out as the American League's final drama unfolds next.
The following message furnished by Major League Baseball.
Set your sights on the best in baseball. Order the 1985 World Series program. It's chock full of facts with World Series rosters and history, and more than 100 pages of articles and photographs, making the World Series program a collector's item, and it's the same one sold at the ballpark. Send $6 check or money order to World Series Program, Box 8585, Trenton, New Jersey, 08650. That's Box 8585, Trenton, New Jersey.
Hi, I'm George Brett, third baseman of the Kansas City Royals. As you see our lineup, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the guy that's pitching against us tonight, Dave Stieb. His record, 14-13, is very misleading. He's pitched against us twice in the series, been very, very effective. I think if we're going to beat him today, we're going to have to take advantage of some of the opportunities that come up. I'm going to have to swing the bat good. I think Hal McRae's going to have to swing the bat good. Willie Wilson, if he gets on base, and Lonnie Smith, if they get on base, they can rattle him a little bit by stealing some bases. So whatever happens, enjoy yourself, and I hope Kansas City wins. It looks like the St. Louis Cardinals have just won by Jack Clark's 3-run home run. I hope it's an I-70 series.
Not if Dave Stieb has anything to say about it. Working on 3 days rest has not affected him adversely during the season. He did it a couple of times and pitched pretty well, and he pitched well on 3 days rest in Game 4 of this series.
In the first ball game he pitched, he was all but awesome. He had a great overhand curveball, a hard one that he had not used very much during the season. The second game he didn't use it much. He said simply, I didn't have to. He may have it back again today. Bell, Mosby, Barfield, and there's the rest of the infield. They played defensively very well. Last night a little shaky. They've got to come back.
Lonnie Smith hitting .217 in the series. 28-year-old Dave Stieb delivers. Down low for a ball. Dave Phillips working the plate for the second time in the series. He was behind the dish in Game 1, of course. A ball and a strike to Smith.
With the 3 days rest again, look for Dave Stieb to see if he's down at the side or 3/4. He's been 3/4 delivery where he has much better action on his fastball and slider. If he can stay up there for 7 innings, the bullpen will help him out.
1 and 2. Of course, Dennis Lamp, who in many ways has been their most effective reliever, had a long stint last night. They won't hesitate to use him for a batter or two, but he can't work 2-3 innings as he has in the past in this series. Henke would appear to be the main man. For Kansas City, Liebrand is ready. Jackson could work an inning or so. Black a batter or two, even though he pitched last night. And, of course, Quisenberry. Slow curve is high, 2-2. Fastball is squibbed through the right side for a base hit. So Lonnie Smith, who has come alive since Game 5, is on to open the ball game.
Well, the challenge is there for Dave Stieb. He threw a fastball up and in that was fought off. Lonnie Smith will be getting good lead. Remember, Dave Stieb has a super move to first base. He also is quick to home plate, but Ernie Witt has had difficulty throwing base runners out with that sore right shoulder.
With the exception of Game 1, Kansas City has had a lead at one time or another in every contest, and looking to break out on top here in Game 7. Bret next.
We have that same kind of wind that George Brett got the ball toward right center field. The wind pushed it out.
Hit back up the middle. Garcia backhand steps on the bag and completes the double play.
With Willie Wilson running from the left side, this is about the only way you can double him up, without an exchange between the second baseman and the shortstop. Look at how far they got him. Nice play by Garcia with a throw off balance going away from first base. He becomes important for his defense. If the knee's better, his range will be better.
George Brett, 400 in the series, 8 for 20, 3 homers, 5 RBIs. The 3 homers ties his own American League playoff record for most in a series, and is one behind the Major League record of 4 set by Bob Robertson for the Pirates in the 1971 series against the Giants. That was back in the days when it was best of 5, of course. 2-0. A litany of achievement in postseason play for George Brett. 3-0. There is no more intense competitor than Dave Stieb, but even he has no macho desire for a confrontation with Brett. He said it simply: if he comes up in a situation where he can hurt us, I'm walking him.
Well, he challenged him in Game 1. Brett arose to the challenge, got 2 base hits. Dave Stieb says very simply, somebody's got to be the best. Why not me? Very cocky.
Off-speed pitch grounded foul. The count is full.
That is a pattern, that last pitch right there. One series this year, the Blue Jays threw Brett a lot of slow slop curves and changeups, and it worked. They tried it the next series on him, and he beat their brains out. You can't stay the same way with this guy.
And the 3-2. Got him. They're on their feet at Exhibition Stadium as Hauser's Royals are set down scoreless by Dave Stieb.
For Bobby Cox and the Blue Jays against Bret Saberhagen, Damaso Garcia leading off, playing second base, followed by Lloyd Mosby in center field. Rance Mullix at third base in the 3 spot. Willie Upshaw, the cleanup hitter, at first base. Al Oliver, the DH, who is given Quisenberry fits this series. George Val in left field. Then Ernie Witt. Perhaps he'll get into that win tonight and pull the ball. Jesse Barfield and Tony Fernandez. And what a better way to get that momentum going than have Stieb strike out of Brett and get this crowd going. There's Saberhagen, Bob.
Won't be 22 until next season has begun. His wife, Janine, expecting that baby still, as she has been for the past week, any moment. What a quinella it would be to win the pennant and experience the birth of their first child on the same night, and it could happen.
Saberhagen on the season. Outstanding control pitcher, walks very few, can control the outside or inside corner with his fastball. How will his breaking ball be? And he also has a great straight change.
He's behind Garcia 3-0. Damaso has walked 3 times in the series after walking just 15 times in the entire regular season. Taking all the way, he thought he had the walk, and Phillips gives the pitch to Saberhagen.
You're probably looking at one of the best ball and strike umpires in the American League, and Davey Phillips. Garcia just burst out of there too soon.
Now the count is full. 3 years ago, Bret Saberhagen was pitching in the Los Angeles City Championship game at Dodger Stadium for Cleveland High School. Threw a no-hitter against Palisades just 3 years ago. That's out of play. 2 years later, he became the youngest pitcher ever to start a League Championship Series game when he went 8 strong innings in Game 2 against the Tigers in 1984. And now at age 21, there may be a Cy Young Award in his immediate future and maybe a pennant before the night is over. Hit sharply, but White is there. One second baseman throws out another.
Frank White batting one more time, a little bit down in the lineup in the ace spot for Dick Hauser. Still has that little swelling in his right hand. Garth Lord stepped down in a couple of games ago. You know that 1 year of maturity that you talked about on Bret Saberhagen has added 4 or 5 miles per hour to his fastball. It's a little bigger, a little stronger, a little heavier. Become much more quick. It hasn't lost that control.
In the last 70 years, only 2 pitchers younger than Saberhagen have been 20-game winners. Dwight Gooden this year, Bob Feller in 1938. A ball and a strike. What a contrast between Stieb and Saberhagen, each in his fashion a keen competitor. But Stieb is very intense and at times demonstrative. Saberhagen, belying his young status at age 21, is almost serene out there. Gets the breaking ball over 1-2. Before the game, less than an hour before the game, there was Saberhagen leaning against the batting cage, joshing with teammates.
And if he can mix more of those curveballs in like that last pitch to Mosby, it could be a long night on the other side of the diamond for the hitters, too, the Blue Jays hitters.
The 1-2. Got him. Put that pitch on the outside corner, and Mosby just had a weak wave at it.
Well, he should be able to control either the left or right-handed hitters from getting the ball to right field in that wind. If he keeps the ball in this area on left-handers, and busts right-handers inside, too. Be tough to hit and get into that wind to right.
Now it's Mullenix. 3 for 10 in the series, including a Game 3 home run off Saberhagen. Mullenix was a key batter last night. The Jays put the first 2 men on against Gubazan and might have had him on the ropes until Mullenix hit into a 1-6-3 double play. A run scored, but Gubazan was able to regain his composure at that point, gave them 5+ decent innings, and wound up as the winner. Changeup, 2-0.
Toronto experienced that same problem last night, game number 6, when they stranded 9 that they had, in the month of September when the Yankees were coming, getting the key hits with men in scoring position or to keep rallies going. About 4 months of the season, the regular season, they hit so timely. He was one of them, Mullenix.
Draws a 2-out walk. The Blue Jays took over undisputed possession of first place in the American League East on May 13th. And although they gave a lot of that lead back, they never trailed, and they were always in control of their divisional race. They have given all of their lead back in this series. They've never trailed, but they've given it all back. Upshaw has struggled at 182, 4 for 22 for the series. A double, his only extra base hit. Off Saberhagen again. And Upshaw's aboard. They have hit him hard, both literally and figuratively, in this series.
Here to catch part of the thigh and a lot of the hand as Hauser and Mickey Cobb, the trainer, come out. There's a fastball inside right where Sundberg signaled that he wanted it. No chance for a play, so in this cool weather, that hand gets number. One of those follow-throughs with the right foot over the left, following with your back to it. Many people say, well, why the heck don't they change a guy, a young pitcher like him, to get in the proper position to field? If you change him, you might upset his delivery, and there goes the fastball in the control. So it's a very borderline thing to do. Gary Blaylock, pitching coach, does not want to force-feed these young Kansas City pitchers.
Rick Dempsey made an interesting point on the pregame show about Saberhagen's earlier injury in Game 3 when the Mosby liner got him on the left heel. He said if that heel is still bothering Saberhagen, he won't be able to land hard on it, and the tip-off will be if he is up with his pitches.
Well, he was up and around the next day, taking batting practice, running around, and this is what happened off the ball off Lloyd Mosby's bat. Injury to him earlier in this series. This was hit a lot harder than the ball that was just hit by Upshaw.
That Mosby shot was hit so hard it carried directly off of Saberhagen and into short left field on the fly. Bret is going to stay in, and they're letting him get loose again.
It's one of those areas, if he got it on the fingers, ordinarily they take that ethyl chloride spray to freeze it so there will not be any swelling or any hemorrhaging inside. But if you do it on the hand or the fingers, his pitching hand, he can't grip the baseball, so he's going to have to live with it and hope it doesn't get any worse.
Rousing ovation for Oliver, who's 3 for 7 in the series. The other DH, Cliff Johnson from the right side, 7 for 17. So that spot is really produced for Bobby Cox. Strike one. Another situation where the Jays have runners aboard, 2 on, 2 out, but they left 17 in the last 2 games. Wasn't cheated on the cut. Saberhagen ahead 0-2. Ow, hit him. The bases are loaded, and Oliver pops up, grabs the ball, and tosses it back to Saberhagen.
Not only pops up, there was no balls, 2 strikes. He overthrew a fastball, and Oliver pops up clapping, happy to be on base and load him up. Take a look at Al Oliver. Said, I'll take it any way you give me. And the guy that's coming up, I think is due about to explode. He had hit the ball very hard in the 5th game in Kansas City. Wasn't trying to pull the ball.
Strike one to Bell, who has hit only 1 homer in the last month and a half. He had 28 for the year. Fell short of 100 RBIs when he tailed off late. In the air to right. Sheridan back. He's got room, and he's got the ball. A walk, a hit batter, and an infield single left Saberhagen facing bases loaded, 2 out. He escapes. Only in Game 1, when Stieb prevailed 6-1, has the losing team not been able to say, what if? If you're Kansas City, you look back to Quisenberry's inability to get Oliver out, to taking a 1-run lead to the 10th in Game 2, and to the 9th in Game 4, and coming up on the short end when all was said and done. And if you're the Blue Jays, you look at the fact that counting the bases loaded situation here in the 1st inning, you've now left 20 men on base in the last 19 innings.
And if there's one sign of the inexperience of the Blue Jays as opposed to the experience of the Royals, that's where you find it. The young hitters, the Barfields, Mosbys, Upshaw's, Bell, are trying to hit a 3-run home run with nobody on base. Overswinging, trying to do it themselves because they've never been here before.
3 hits for Hal McRae last night. If he remains a presence behind George Brett in their lineup, what a key it could be. Either forcing them to pitch to Brett or punishing them when they don't. In the air to left. He got under it, though. Bell in and toward the line. 1 out in the second.
And you could see the way George Bell went after that ball, how the wind is affecting balls hit high like that one and hit to left field. He just kept drifting, where it got to the point where almost Tony Fernandez could almost have gotten that ball. You'll have to hit the ball pretty much on the line to get it out of here in left field. Right field or right center field again tonight like yesterday. It's going to keep on going out that way. Look at the flags.
In 16 LCS at-bats, Pat Sheridan has 1 hit. A pinch hit homer in Game 2 off Henke. Stieb throws the fastball by him. Drags a bunt, and he got it by Stieb, and that was the key. He beats it out. Stieb was the only guy who had a chance to make a play.
This surprised him a little bit. Sheridan does have excellent running speed. Did not get a good pitch to bunt on a high fastball, but he got it down and just sneaked it by.
Now the Brockton, Massachusetts product, Steve Balboni, but he has hardly been a Brockton blockbuster. 3 for 22 and without an extra base hit in the entire series. Balboni's 36 homers broke John Mayberry's Kansas City record of 34, established in 1975. Hit softly down toward Mullenix. The play will be to first, and he's got him. Mayberry, by the way, still holds the Toronto single-season home run record. Hit 30 for the Blue Jays in 1980. You've got to figure that someday a Barfield or a Bell will eclipse that.
Well, Bell went into September looking like he was going to. And from September 1st on, his bat went sour.
Sundberg has just 2 hits in the series, a Game 2 double and a Game 3 homer. Breaking ball fouled down the right field line and out of play. You know, we've talked about Stieb not being adversely affected by working on 3 days rest, but now he's working on 3 days rest twice in a row. He's pitching for the 3rd time in 9 days, and maybe that piles up.
That was a question that was asked many times around the batting cage of Al Widmar, the pitching coach. He said, hey, no, Stieb can do it. Alexander can do it. They've done it several times this year. He said everybody had 4-man pitching staffs with 3 days rest in the olden days. It remains to be seen, though, Bob, how long Stieb can stay on top, have the hard curveball. And again, if he can get Bobby Cox into the 7th inning, it'll be a big plus because of the bullpen and Henke.
The 1-2. Hit softly, but it might be in a good spot. Yes, it is. The Royals are going to be on top. They lead it 1-0 as Sheridan scores on the RBI single by Sundberg.
And every swing that Jim Sundberg had against Stieb, he was trying to hit the ball the opposite way to protect against that wicked slider that Stieb was throwing him. Just trying to stay with it, wait a little longer, hit the ball to right field. Ernie Witt saw what he was trying to do, comes inside. Look at that. Witt set up outside. Stieb wanted to come in. He still went to right field, broke his bat, gets an RBI.
Up steps Frank White, hitting 190 in the series on 4 for 21. White was the MVP of the 1980 League Championship Series when the Royals swept the Yanks. He hit .545 in the 3 games. That was the last time the Western Division champ won the American League pennant. Off-speed pitch hit well to right center. Back goes Barfield, and short of the track, he's got it. But not before the Royals throw the game's first run on the board on the RBI single by Sundberg, an early 1-0 lead. The Goodyear Blimp Enterprise overhead on a chilly night in Toronto. Remember, every World Series game this year will be played at night, so it figures to be chilly, not only in Toronto if the Blue Jays make it, but in Kansas City if Hauser's club is there, and in St. Louis as we get into late October.
Saberhagen, Bob, watching him warm up between innings, spent the greater amount of his warm-up pitch is working on the breaking ball. So apparently Sundberg thinks he's got the good pop in his fastball. He's going to start working the breaking ball in. Sometimes the good hitter will stand up at home plate and watch that.
Witt to start it. Base hit. Solid line drive to right. Four of the last 5 hitters have reached against Saberhagen.
He tomahawks one. Up at chin level. This is a tough part of the lineup for Bobby Cox. You get Witt if he's swinging the bat right, and then Barfield with all those home runs and RBIs, and Fernandez in the 9th spot. They were a factor in game 1, Fernandez and Witt, when they drove in 4 runs between them.
Barfield's homer to right in Kansas City in game 3 off Saberhagen tied that one up 2-2. It was part of a 5-run 5th inning for the Blue Jays. The Jays have scored 3 or more in an inning in the series 3 times. Kansas City hasn't had any inning where they've scored more than twice. Slow curveball, 1-1. Saberhagen is 20-6 for the year, but apparently wouldn't be if he had to face the Blue Jays all the time. In 2 appearances against them, 1 in this series, 1 in the regular season, his ERA is over 11. 1-2 to Barfield. Got him on strikes. And for Saberhagen, it's the 2nd strikeout of the night.
A 21-year-old is not supposed to be able to do that. Lose a fastball and spot it the way he does. Drop down from the side as he did the pitch before to Barfield, and then throw that kind of curveball 3/4 and get it away. Look at this. 21.
Well, we'll repeat what we told you in game 3. Jim Sundberg says the only pitchers he's ever caught with control comparable to Saberhagen's were Ferguson, Jenkins, and Gaylord Perry. But by the time Sundberg caught them, they were seasoned veterans. Saberhagen's 21 years old in his 3rd year of pro ball.
Sundberg also said of those two, Ferguson, Jenkins, the Canadian, and of course Gaylord Perry, that they taught him how to call a ball game. Said he'd never been taught that before. Just working with the veterans helped him.
Witt at first with 1 out. And a liner into left center field. Willie Wilson in pursuit, and he tracks it down.
He's a guy, Bob, he's awfully difficult to call play-by-play with, I would think, because it looks like it's going to go in the gap, and with that great speed, he makes it an easy catch. When it was hit, he said, well, maybe a double. Hit fairly well, and he drifts underneath it. He made a great catch on Mullick's yesterday, a ball hit into the wind. The one on Bell in Kansas City crashing into the wall.
If an I-70 series materializes, a lot of hitters will be left shaking their heads on drives to center field, likely hits stolen by McGee and Wilson.
Well, with St. Louis, if Coleman comes back, you've got 3 center fielders. Van Slyke, McGee, and Coleman.
Check swing foul, and Saberhagen is quickly ahead of Garcia 0-2. Congratulations are due to Whitey Herzog and his bunch. What a job Whitey and the front office in St. Louis did this year, taking that team to 101 victories, and then after being down 2-0, roaring back with 4 straight against the Dodgers. Fastball chopped down towards second. White backs up and throws Garcia out for the 2nd time tonight. So Witt opens the inning with a single, but gets no further than first base, and we'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Game 7 of the 1985 American League Championship Series is brought to you by United Airlines. You're not just flying, you're flying the friendly skies. And by Prudential for life, health, auto, and home. Get a piece of the rock. Prudential Insurance. In the top of the 3rd, it's the suddenly celebrated Buddy Biancalana to lead it off. I'd say that invitation to the David Letterman show is just about a lock now. 2 hits last night, including an RBI double. And that's the hit that chased Doyle Alexander. Strike one to Roland Americo Buddy Biancalana. One and one.
George Brett got his wish when he talked about Stieb. He said, we got to get to him early before he settles in. We've got one. Will it be enough?
Behind Biancalana, 3-1. Back to the top of the order for Lonnie Smith after Biancalana. Taking all the way, and the count is full. Tip back into the glove of Witt, and Biancalana goes down on strikes. Second strikeout for Stieb.
Dave Stieb had some elbow problems off and on during the season. Said they no longer bother him. He said his problem is he throws a hard fastball by Buddy Biancalana. His problem really later on in the season were his mechanics, landing stiff leg. That forced him to drop down to the side. Couldn't get his arm through.
Grounded to Mullenix. Picks it up after juggling it, throws Smith out.
Dave Stieb's the type of pitcher that can throw high curveballs like this and at times get away with them because he throws it so hard it breaks so late. Mullenix slaps it down. Playing in case Lonnie Smith elected to bunt.
Willie Wilson, first pitch swinging down the line in left field and out of play.
Dave Stieb, over the last month and a half, and I guess we talked about this earlier in the series, Bob, has really not had the problem with his teammates that he had in the past. Last year, when he lost the ERA in what he thought was a particular game, Tony Fernandez had some trouble with ground balls. He called the press box, shouted up. Stieb said they should have been errors and not base hits. It irritated his teammates. That's not the Dave Stieb that's been seen around you for the last month and a half. He's become more one of the boys and tried very hard. And they liked him a lot more.
And more approachable as far as the media is concerned, too. 0-2 pitch. Fastball hit in the air to shallow left, and Bell is there. A 1-2-3 inning for Stieb. Hauser's got the 1-0 lead as we go to the bottom of the third. Tomorrow night on NBC, it's the best night of television on television. The Cosby Show in the leadoff spot. Family Ties, Cheers, Night Court, and Hill Street Blues follow. Mosby, Mullenix, and Upshaw in the bottom of the third. Saberhagen with a 1-0 lead. A trip to the series on the line. Curveball misses, ball one. Of course, this is the first year that the LCS has had the best-of-7 format. The Kansas City franchise has been involved in winner-take-all playoff games twice before in the best-of-5 setup in both 1976 and 77. They lost memorable fifth and deciding games to the Yankees. You'll recall the Chambliss homer at Yankee Stadium in 76 after George Brett's 3-run shot had tied it off Grant Jackson in the 8th. And then the Yankees got 3 in the top of the 9th after the Royals led going into the final frame at Kansas City in Game 5 the next year. Popped up on the infield, and Saberhagen wants it. And the pitcher makes the play.
He looks over at George Brett and Steve Dalboni and says, I thought I'd just let the sure man have it. He was a super athlete in high school. We talked earlier about his basketball career. Highly recruited by some colleges out in Southern California. Notice, if you will, the difference in the deliveries of these two guys, Saberhagen and Stieb. Stieb more of an arm pitcher, straight up, stiff front leg. Saberhagen will use his lower body, a smoother delivery. They both throw hard, though.
1-1 to Mullenix. He was a highly regarded young shortstop in the Angels organization in the late 70s. Didn't come through for them. He was sent to Kansas City for a couple of years and then on to Toronto. And this is where he's thrived, with hitting like that. Up the gap for extra bases. Mullenix on his way to second. And he'll stop there. So Mullenix, who got to Saberhagen for a 2-run homer in Game 3, has walked and doubled against him tonight.
As a youngster, Mullenix was a very fast runner. He hurt his back early in his career. That might have been tripled. Played well by Wilson again. He gets that ball so quickly, prevents the triple.
Upshaw and Oliver have a chance to drive him in. Balboni, it's a fair ball. He doesn't realize it, and neither does Upshaw.
And that'll bring Bobby Cox out again. Another rhubarb. Upshaw is yelling and screaming, and home plate umpire Davey Phillips. The call is made. Phillips said, it's not my call. It is the first base umpire Dale Ford's call. So Cox will now go to Ford. It's not the position of Balboni. He was in foul territory. Upshaw is going to take Davey Phillips and Bobby Cox along with him and iron this out somehow with Dale Ford, but the call's been made.
The difference between this and the earlier ball fielded by Bret, that was Phillips' call because the ball had not yet reached third base.
Upshaw right in front of Phillips, and Dale Ford just cracked his bat. Broke it right on the turf. Interesting thing about that play is Balboni, standing in foul territory with the ball, did not look like he was going to throw it to the pitcher Saberhagen coming over. Don't know if he did that because Upshaw hadn't run or because he too thought it was a foul ball. I think he might have thought it was a foul ball and wasn't even going to make a play.
Yeah, he did. Upshaw didn't leave the batter's box, and Balboni didn't realize it was fair either.
It's where it crosses the bag. You know what? That ball came within a couple of inches of being fair, just missed the line. When it crossed the bag, I believe it was a fair ball. I think that's a fair ball. Upshaw still argued. Davey said, that's not my call. I think Ford got that right down at first base. Because after Balboni caught it, he ran a couple steps more way into foul territory, which is very deceiving to the fans who are hooting here. And we had a replay from that camera in right field down the line, a new camera put in last year at the World Series, that is shooting almost directly down the line. Ford makes the right call, even though it bounced foul way past the bag.
The count is ball one to Al Oliver. He lines it hard to center. Willie Wilson turns completely around and clutches it. The boos are for the Oaks, not for the Jays, but it appeared that Dale Ford had that call correct. And in any case, Bobby Cox sees another opportunity go by the boards. A man left at third, and it's 1-0 KC.
We're going to show you the camera that got that shot on the ball that was ruled fair by Upshaw, and it is very close to the line, maybe 8 or 10 feet off, so it's giving you a pretty good perspective. Balboni's the thing that makes it deceiving. That ball almost hits the line behind the bag, so it crossed the bag in fair territory. Mullenix, upset with the call, he had doubled. No way that he could have had a view from his angle, but that'll show you the emotion of this ball game in game number 7.
Brett, McRae, and Sheridan in the fourth. Stieb fanned George to end the first. Strike one.
Blue Jays over this first 3 innings are looking like last night when they stranded 9. Some more missed opportunities. 5 stranded, Bob, through the first 3 innings.
You know, we've been comparing Brett in postseason play to Reggie Jackson. Yet there's another name that figures. It's quickly 0-2. You have to pay some respect to Steve Garvey, who towers over the record book in the National League when it comes to LCS competition. I guess the more ready comparison is to Jackson because we're talking about the American League here, but Garvey has been dominant in the senior circuit. Who will forget his performance in Game 4 last year of the playoffs for the Padres against the Cubs, comparable to what Bret did in Game 3 of this series. 1-2.
And one thing, Dave Stieb trusts his stuff tonight because he's going right after George Brett. He can tell when he goes out there if he's over the top enough, if his fastball's live enough, and the curveball's breaking enough. He feels it is, so he's challenged Brett on the first 2 pitches and just missed with an overhand curve.
Set up outside, and Brett spoils it.
Dave Stieb's not the type of guy that in the clubhouse meeting you say to him, now we're going to pitch around George Brett or Reggie Jackson or Don Mattingly or Jim Rice. He won't listen to you if he's right. He's got his good stuff so far tonight.
And yet even he said, if he can hurt me, I don't mind walking him. Off-speed pitch rolled to Upshaw. It'll be an unassisted putout as he beats Brett to the bag. He pitched him outside and made him reach for it.
Change up. We pulled the string on Brett. Remember he got him with a big overhand curve the first time, a strikeout.
So up steps McRae, who flied to left his first time in his 16th big league season. And without a contract for next year, the Royals will have to make a decision on it. The fans are roaring as if to help the umpires decide that, yes, that was a foul ball.
The old Bronx cheer in Toronto. That's Ted Hendry. Ted Hendry at third. He was involved in that catch, non-catch by Mosby.
Wow, look at that breaking ball. That's the one he had going in Game 1 that kind of just paralyzes right-handed hitters.
That's more of a three-quarters roundhouse. He got Brett earlier, and a lot of hitters in Game 1 with a hard overhand curve, a downer.
Curveball again, and he gets him swinging. Third strikeout for Stieb.
What a reaction by Dave Stieb after he broke off the wicked curveball. You think he isn't tough? Watch him react.
Sheridan steps in. He dragged a bunt for a hit in the second inning. In the air to right. It's chasing Barfield back. Remember the wind against the fence, and goodbye. The second homer of the series for Sheridan. A lazy fly ball on another day in a different ballpark. A 2-0 Kansas City lead tonight.
And remember, Pat Sheridan had an outstanding year for Dick Hauser last year when there were a lot of problems on that ball club. Had just 3 home runs during the regular season this year. That was in 206 official at-bats. He's already got 2 in this league championship series. Another one of those bats trying to take some of the pressure off George Brett. McRae did it yesterday.
Balboni 0 for 1 tonight, 3 for 23 in the series. He hit 2 homers during the season off Stieb. Breaking ball, strike 1. Well hit to left center field, but the wind isn't blowing in that direction, and Bell makes the catch short of the track.
And I wonder if Saberhagen's hand is bothering him because the bullpen is getting going. There's Sheridan with his second home run of the league championship series. There's your score.
Sheridan steps in. He dragged a bunt for a hit in the second inning. In the air to right. It's chasing Barfield back. Remember the wind against the fence, and goodbye. The second homer of the series for Sheridan. While we were away, Dick Hauser came to the mound. Bret Saberhagen had gone out there, but showed signs of being bothered by that right hand that was hit by the shot off Willie Upshaw's bat earlier in the game, and Hauser is taking no chances. Saberhagen is gone. That was moments ago. Leaving here in the bottom of the fourth. And coming on is Charlie Leibrandt, the starter in Game 1 and in Game 4.
And in Game 4, you might recall, as Bret Saberhagen leaves, there's the hand which he was clutching at, apparently swelled up. The reflexes of a pitcher. As soon as the ball came off Upshaw's bat, he didn't try to get out of the way, didn't try and get his glove there. The nearest thing to it was the bare hand, and that's what he slapped it with, and now he leaves for Leibrandt, who took a 1-0 lead in Game 4. He pitched brilliantly against Toronto. Ended up getting lost out of the bullpen.
So that ERA against the Jays in the series is misleading. In Game 1, he was victimized by a number of bleeders and flare hits. Let's look back to the ball Upshaw hits in the first inning. Off Saberhagen's hand. Gets him on the throwing hand. Now, he was able to work through the third, but had to back off here at the start of the fourth.
Because it is an injury, verified by Davey Phillips, the crew chief, Leibrandt will get all the warm-up pitches that he wants.
Now let's go back to the top half of this inning. And Sheridan's second home run of the series, and appropriately enough, as the wind pushes it out, it will sail right over the Kansas City Royals insignia and give them the 2-0 lead.
Right where Jesse Barfield is standing, the dimension is about 345 to 50 feet. There is no other Major League park that would have been a home run. Even Yankee Stadium with a short porch. But he got the ball in the wind, and it just kept on going. So far in this league championship series, the left-handers, Bud Black, ERA of 1.69. He's been in 3 ball games. Danny Jackson, he's 1 win, no losses. Pitched that 2-0 shutout. No earned runs scored off him. Leibrandt, an ERA of over 6 with 2 losses thus far, but he pitched brilliantly into the 9th inning the last time out, Game 4. So the left-handers that have given the Blue Jays difficulties all season long continue to do so in this series. See if they can hang something on Leibrandt now.
George Bell to start it. Flied out to right with the bases loaded to end the first for Toronto. Will be followed by Whitten Barfield. We're in the last half of the fourth. The Royals trying to recover from a 3-1 deficit and win the American League pennant. Strike one is called.
I think it's interesting that being 3 games to 1 down and scrambling back as they have with the last 2 victories, you would think that their bullpen would be in shambles. And in a way, it's not in shambles for Bobby Cox, but it's not as deep today as Dick Hauser's. He could use Farr if he needed to, Quisenberry and the other left-handers we've mentioned. Farr pitched very, very well his outing, second outing.
Friday night in Game 3, and Hauser hasn't had to use him since then. The complete game Danny Jackson gave them in Game 5, and for a while he was really on the ropes. But he was able to go the distance. That helped Hauser put that bullpen in order, especially with the off day to follow before Game 6.
Game 4, too, because Leibrandt went in the 9th, and Quisenberry came in the 9th and pitched just a few hitters.
Two pitch from Leibrandt to Bell. A shot and a fair ball by the diving Bret. Bell on his way to second as it bounces away from Lonnie Smith, and a leadoff double.
That cut fastball or slider that breaks so many right-handers' bats up and in. Bell gets it by Bret as it hits on the line. So once again, Toronto has a runner on base. They've had him on every inning thus far.
The Jays have left 5 already in the game. Witt singled his first time up. Foul ball.
They're not going to let the umpires up, are they?
Cheers of derision continue each time they get an obvious call right. Inside.
That's the pitch that Black had such great command of in Game 4. He had an outstanding fastball. In fact, the last 3 or 4 innings of that ball game, Leibrandt rather, he threw mostly fastballs before he lost it to Garcia.
Popped up. But is it playable? No, it's backing out of play. The 1-2 pitch. Struck him out.
The right fielder, number 29.
So Leibrandt yields a double to the right-handed hitter Bell, then fans the lefty Witt.
He turned something over and sunk it on Witt.
Another right-handed hitter now in Barfield with the switch hitter Fernandez on deck. 2-1.
Now, Bobby Cox, Dick Hauser's the same. They don't believe in a lot of clubhouse meetings, and I don't think Bobby Cox had them. If he were to tell the Blue Jays something, I think he'd probably say, hey, look, guys, remember we went to New York, lost that first ball game, kicked the ball around a little bit. We came back and beat them 3 straight. Then they got close here. We came back and won it.
Popped up on the right side. Balboni in foul ground, running out of room, and the wind is taking it over, and Balboni reaches up and grabs it. The wind kept pushing it away from Balboni, but it stayed in just far enough.
Barfield was going out that way to take advantage of the wind. Went after a fastball high in the strike zone, perhaps the ball got under it, and the wind didn't blow it out far enough. Look at Frank White, right over yelling to Balboni to make sure that he knew there was a runner on second base, Bell, not to let him tag up and go to third.
Fernandez drove one to deep center, but Willie Wilson caught it in the second inning. That was off Saberhagen. Turns around about righty against Leibrandt and takes a strike.
Well, Toronto needs something to excite their fans again, as Dave Stieb did in inning number 1 when he struck out Bret.
Quickly 0-2. Fernandez does not strike out much. He'll generally make contact for you. Weak swing, and he fans to end the inning. So Leibrandt struck out 2 in his first frame in relief of the injured Saberhagen. Back after these messages from your local station. Top half of the 5th. Kansas City leading at 2-0 on an RBI single by this guy, Jim Sundberg, in the 2nd, and a solo homer by Pat Sheridan in the 4th. Strike 1 from Stieb. In 5 full seasons as a big league manager, Dick Hauser's teams have finished second twice and first 3 times, and he also won the second half of the Western Division season in the strike campaign of 1981 and got his team into the playoffs against Oakland. Sidearm, and it's tapped back to Stieb. That takes care of Sundberg. And if there's a little bit of a smile tugging at the corners of Dick Hauser's mouth, who can blame him? Down 3-1, they were already writing eulogies for his team. Danny Jackson gave them life in Game 5. They beat Doyle Alexander here last night, and they hold the 2-0 lead and the inside track on a trip to the World Series in Game 7. White bounces to Fernandez. Easy hop for him, and 2 quick outs in the top of the 5th.
And if there's anything that indicates the kind of tough luck season that Dave Stieb has had, remember he led the American League in ERA, but he was 14-13. Listen to what he did against the Royals this year. It's 1 win, 3 losses with an ERA of 1.89. So he was not only tough luck against the league, especially against the Kansas City Royals.
During the regular season, he lost to KC 2-0, 2-1, and 4-2. Biancalana. Smacked by Upshaw, and a base hit for Biancalana. He rounds first, and he'll hold there. Not on Barfield's arm, you don't.
Well, he looked like he had the ball. It would have been a tough play, but the ball hit the seam between the artificial surface and the dirt. There's a little rough spot there. Watch the second bounce. Boom. up over his glove, almost took his head off. Barfield goes into the corner and holds it to a single. A wicked hop. Almost got him in the head. This new drain-through turf, but they don't have the extensive drainage system here as they do in Kansas City and St. Louis, because they may only be here a couple of years before they move into the new retractable dome stadium.
Lonnie Smith, curveball for a strike. Might not be such a bad idea to have Biancalana on the move here. If you throw him out, you get your leadoff man Smith to start the next inning.
Kansas City has stolen 2 bases in this league championship series, but caught 4 times by Witt and the pitching staff.
One of those steals by the guy at the plate, Lonnie Smith, a big one in the first inning of Game 5. Not only did it lead directly to a run, but it sort of jump-started the Royals. They were trailing 3-1 on the verge of elimination, and that's what got them fired up. Lonnie opened with a double and then quickly stole third. 0-2 pitch from Stieb. Curveball got him swinging. For Stieb, it's strikeout number 4. But the more important numbers, 2-0 Kansas City.
There's your score going to the bottom of the 5th, 2-0 Kansas City. Sometimes you think that your television set is broken, the sound system, and the fans are acting up right now. But because this is an open-air stadium except for the left field bleachers, a lot of the sound seems to go right up in the air, and it sounds like they are dead crowd. Not right now, however. But they're cheering.
So far, their team has teased them without delivering. They've stranded 6 through 4 innings.
It's a pattern that Bobby Cox does not like. It went on through Game 6, stranded 9, lots of opportunities. Already the bases loaded, left loaded in the first in this ball game off Saberhagen. Second first hit around, 4th first hit around.
1-2 to Garcia, who's grounded out to Frank White twice tonight. Base hit Garcia.
Well, you wonder how long the Royals can continue to play with fire, as they did in Game 6. And they are again with all the base runners. The Blue Jays have got to start capitalizing. Remember, it was Mosby who got the big base hit double off Leibrandt to finish him off in Game 4.
It was after Leibrandt, who ordinarily has pinpoint control, walked Garcia on 4 pitches to start the Toronto 9th in Game 4, with Kansas City leading 1-0. Immediately after that, Mosby drilled one up the gap in right center. It tied the game at 1 as Garcia scored all the way from first. It sent Leibrandt to the showers. On came Quisenberry, and hits by Bell and Oliver won the game for Toronto. Stadium or not, you can hear these Jays rooters now.
All they're asking for is a base hit when it counts.
So walk and a hit batter so far in 4 innings plus, and nothing on the board. 2-1 pitch. Possible double play ball, but it's hit softly, and White doesn't even throw to second base.
White, the veteran, took the sure out. Had he gone to get Garcia, gone to Biancalana, it might have been a very close play. He might have had him, but with a 2-run lead, he wanted to get the sure one and not mess something up. This is a veteran, Frank White, who won all those gold gloves. He took a peek, didn't feel he could get the lead runner. Got the sure out.
So now the bat of Rance Mullenix, much more dangerous, all things being equal, than that of Garth Orge, is out of the ball game.
This is not an unusual pattern for Bobby Cox. He did this for the last few seasons and got production out of these two people, 93 RBIs, and he's sticking with it now. Yes, it does make a difference then if a right-hander comes in. It happened last night where Orge was struck out by Quisenberry, but Bobby Cox says when you got opportunities to score, use them even middle of the ball game. They may not arise again later on.
And he's got another man in scoring position here with 1 out in the 5th. In the air to left center and deep. Back goes Lonnie Smith, and he's got it. Hit it as well the other way, and this game is tied.
Yeah, not into that wind when you hit it that high. Like Mullick's ball last night, it just gets out there, leaves the bat in a hurry, and settles very quickly.
Is it gone on a day where the wind is not a factor?
Yeah, it's gone or it's up against. Garth thought he had something going. You'll see now how he reacts. And he knows the wind killed it. But a smart pitcher will do that. Lee Brandt says, hey, why pitch away, throw fastballs, and he can hit it the other way, and it'll be blown out. If I make a mistake, it'll be inside part of the plate. A change-up, a very attractive pitch to right-handers today. They hit it high, stays in.
Upshaw takes the ball. Involved in a couple of interesting plays so far. The single off the bare hand of Saberhagen, which ultimately led to his exit, and the disputed fair foul ground ball down the first baseline in the 3rd. Another shot, no doubt about this one. That's fair, and the Blue Jays are on the board. Extra base hit for Upshaw. An RBI double. In a series-long slumber, awakens with a key base hit.
And Bob, over the first 4.5 months of the season, one of the big successes of this Blue Jay ball club was getting a lot of 2-out RBI base hits and then putting a couple more together for 2 and 3 runs. They slowed down in that area over the last month and a half. That's why the Yankees got closer, or one of the reasons.
Is done. Cliff Johnson comes on. And you don't lose much, if anything. Oliver has had the key base hits, the game winners, off Quisenberry in games 2 and 4. But Johnson, as you see, is 7 for 17.
Upset. Did he say, if I read his lips right now, they're going to get a right-hander up? He's mad. He is hot.
Quickly 1-1. Well, Al, who actually is a very personable guy, but not short on ego, has long contended he shouldn't be platooned at all. He says he can hit the left-handers.
Well, he's saying the same thing, basically, I think, or at least thinking what you were saying. In the 5th inning, they're going to bring the right-hander. They've got a right-hander warming up right now in the bullpen for the Royals.
And in the late innings, when it's very possible that Quisenberry can be in the ballgame, Oliver, the guy who has been his nemesis, will not be a factor. Brandt taking lots of time before bringing the 2-1 pitch home. 3-1 to Cliff Johnson. A late swing and a weak swing. 3-2.
3 ball, 1 strike, and Lee Brandt takes that little circle change, the half screwball. That may have been why Al Oliver was upset. When Cliff Johnson was introduced, Barr was getting up. A right-hander.
And he got him on strikes.
Watch Al Oliver. He is very upset. When he was taken out for a pinch hitter, he perhaps will not be here next year, and very upset.
There's not much dissension on this Blue Jay club, but Al Oliver is hot right now. You never know, and certainly the likes of Orge and Cliff Johnson are capable of delivering the big hits. But I would say that Dick Hauser is pretty happy with the shuffling that took place and some of the moves that he set in motion with his pitching change.
And perhaps Dan Quisenberry is sitting very happily, as Al Oliver's already beaten him 2 ball games. It'll be interesting to see if they can string some base hits together. The Blue Jays now have stranded 7 through 5, 9 yesterday. Upshaw got a big base hit. Stieb's still out there throwing well, but how long can Stieb hold them in there till they have to go to the bullpen?
Orge stays in the game, of course, and plays third base. And Johnson becomes the designated hitter.
And in the back of Garth Orge, you saw the bullpen, and it's going for the Blue Jays and Bobby Cox as Stieb takes the rubber.
Strike one to Willie Wilson, followed by Bret and McCray in the 6th. Wilson lofts it into shallow center. Mosby wants it. Mosby's got it.
Dave Stieb may have indicated, again, pitching 2 consecutive outings on 3 days rest, that he may be stiffening up in this cool, windy night here at Exhibition Stadium. So Bobby Cox has Jim Acker warming up. Remember, Bob told you earlier that Lamp was used a little bit. He's pitched very effectively in Game 6. Acker's been in 1 outing, and boy, he's been something.
Bret has struck out and grounded to first base. Takes a ball outside. High and away again, 2-0. Obviously keeping it away from Bret on every pitch, but all it takes is one mistake. He won't let you get away with many. Three and 0.
Dave Stieb now really pushing himself on those 3 pitches to Bret. Not saying it's all he's got left, but he wants to get him out and try and finish this inning.
He walks him on 4, and McCray will step in. 7 walks in addition to 8 hits, 3 of them home runs.
Hit-run situation right here. McCray, who's had to cut his swing down because of the side injury, hitting the ball more on the ground, not with quite the authority as he did before he damaged that muscle. So they may try and open up a hole, and Hauser may start Bret.
McCray, once an exceptionally good base runner, had good speed, and most importantly, was very aggressive. Nobody took a guy out at second base on a double play any better than Hal McCray. But at this point in his career, you can really double him up pretty easily if he hits it on the ground. Breaking ball fouled off.
Well, he and Don Baylor really were the primes of their careers, the complete DHs. Hit with power, drove in runs, steal you a base, run the bases very well and aggressively.
Remember his takeout roll block on Willie Randolph at second base in the series against the Yankees in '77. In fact, they had to rewrite the rule after that, saying you must hit the ground first. You can't go in airborne and hit the pivot man without hitting the ground first on the slide. Took something off the breaking ball, and McCray couldn't pull a trigger on it. 1-2.
Just when you think Dave Stieb may be stiffening up, he whips off a pitch like that.
1-2 pitch. A little tapper that is foul. And once again, the sarcasm from the fans here in Toronto, this time directed toward Ted Hendry. Look out. It hit him. So Stieb hits McCray on the 1-2 pitch.
And he's dropping down more and more now. Not every pitch. He's come up on occasion with a hard curveball and fastball, but he comes from the side, and McCray has no way to get out of the way. It starts out behind him. It's a breaking ball. It's not a knockdown. He's not throwing him. You can see the disgust on Stieb. Hauser and Mickey Cobb out again with Jose Martinez, the first base coach. And Bobby Cox is going to come out and talk to Stieb to see how badly his elbow may be stiffening up or his shoulder. What has he got left? Remember, Sheridan's there, was already at a home run and got a single off him. That was a bunt single.
Cox's visit is brief. Acker continues to throw in the bullpen. Stieb stays in.
During the regular season, Stieb hit 9 batters. He's generally up near the top of the American League and hit batsmen. He pitches inside. That wasn't the time he wanted to do it.
First one to Sheridan, breaking ball for a strike.
When a pitcher throws as hard as Stieb, and I've heard Dr. Ron Taylor, the team doctor for Toronto, explain it. There's Bret at second, McRae at first. When you throw that hard, the blood rushes into your hand, which means a lot of it's going out of your shoulder. And sometimes by taking time, you let the blood and circulation get back up on that shoulder, and you recover.
Threw him the same pitch and didn't get the call, and Stieb was disgusted.
He didn't throw that ball hard either. That'll set another man down in the bullpen. Start warming up alongside Acker. Was that Tom Hankey? Yes, it was.
Fastball high, 2-1.
Time in the ball game where you don't say, hey, we'll use our stopper in the 8th and 9th. You might have to use your stopper in what could be your final game to shut somebody down in the 6th and 7th and hope you can come back. So that's the reason Hankey's down there. Well, Lavelle has had elbow problem off and on.
Curveball, strike 2.
You got to manage a little bit differently.
If they need to get a left-handed hitter out, in, if you'll pardon the pun, a key situation, it could be Jimmy Key, considering the way Lavelle threw in his one brief outing in this series. The 2-2 pitch. And Fernandez backhands, throws to third, and got the force. What a play by Fernandez. And it was the only possible play.
And Arch, who ordinarily has outstanding range to his left, immediately sensed that he could not get it on the turf, so he headed for third, and they've done this play many times during the regular season, and that just shows you the greatness of Tony Fernandez, the young Dominican shortstop. Is that outstanding? And to flip the ball on the run, that accurately to Garth Orge. You're something, Tony. And all you can do is get better and better and better. How about Mariano Duncan? What he did coming off that sore knee for Tommy Lasorda's Dodgers.
Turned in some dazzling plays in the series against the Cards.
Same town, San Pedro de Macorís, the Dominican Republic. 7 shortstops started in the major leagues from that town this year. You've heard them enough, we won't rename them.
Balbone's all-or-nothing pattern against the rest of the league, exemplified by his performance against Stieb. Curveball for a strike. 4 for 28 lifetime against the Blue Jays, but 2 of the 4 hits home runs.
You're looking at that play Fernandez made, and what makes a good shortstop like Ozzie Smith or Fernandez? He's going to be a great shortstop. They want the ball in tough situations, not just the 1st through 7th. They want it when you've got to make a key play, and he's already got that at 23.
1-1. Does Stieb's reliance on the breaking ball indicate that maybe he is tiring a little bit and feels he cannot come up with a good heater in the clutch?
Yeah, he knows right now that his great stuff or good stuff he had early is gone, and he's starting to pitch now, and he's going to get a hitter out with his pitch. It becomes this breaking ball. He can no longer trust his raw stuff. He's got to pitch his way out of problems now.
Another curveball, check swing foul, 2-2 the count. Now the count is full. The Royals don't have much speed on the base paths in McRae and Sheridan, but they'll be running with the pitch. They'll have to come back.
Ordinarily, you play Steve Balboni very deeply, especially on the left side of the infield, but in this situation, you want to knock something down. Look where Orge and Fernandez are playing, and Fernandez, if he plays that deeply, he's taking a chance because of that little hump on the back of the infield with that drainage pipe beneath the artificial surface. You can't afford to get too deep and get a bad hop.
Again, the 3-2. The bases are loaded. Sundberg is the hitter.
It'll be a tough decision, but Bobby Cox has got to start thinking of getting him out of there if he's tiring, and perhaps we'll say Hanky. Man's got a big decision. Hanky on the left, Acker on the right. Looks like he's going to go with his best. Not sure. He's talking to Al Widmar, the pitching coach. Bobby Cox relies on his coaches a lot. They have a lot of conferences reevaluating their talent. Sometimes he'll ask for their input, as he just did.
Widmar seems to have told him, I think Stieb can get Sundberg, and Cox, very briefly, tersely said okay, and walked away. Ball 1 to Sundberg. In the air to right, Barfield going back. Look out for the wind. It hits the top of the fence, and I believe it's still in play. Yes, it is. 2 runs will score, 3 runs score. It's a triple for Sundberg. He missed a grand slam by the narrowest of margins. It hit the top of the fence, but as it is, it's a 3-run triple. And Kansas City's lead goes to 5-1. Sundberg has just 4 hits in the series, and every one of them has produced at least 1 run.
The wind keeps pushing it. Like the other base hit, Sundberg continues to try to go the opposite way on Stieb to protect against that slider. Hits right on the middle pole. And even had Barfield been there, he couldn't have jumped that high, as the fence is about 10 feet high. Pops back in. They're on the move. 3 more runs score. For Bobby Cox will have to think about that decision one more time. One of those should I have taken him out. They conferred, as we showed you on the bench. He had to stay with Stieb, hoping to get that 1 out, and it backfired.
Stieb and Cox walk off together, maybe toward a long winter. In the air to right, Barfield going back. Look out for the wind. It hits the top of the fence, and I believe it's still in play. Yes, it is. 2 runs will score, 3 runs score. It's a triple for Sundberg. He missed a grand slam by the narrowest of margins. It hit the top of the fence, but as it is, it's a 3-run triple. And Kansas City's lead goes to 5-1. Unless the Blue Jays rally, the season is over for Dave Stieb. So brilliant in his first 2 outings in the playoffs. A ball and a strike to Frank White.
And how many times have we said in the first 3 ball games here that you do not have to hit a ball well to right field in this ballpark with the wind blowing out?
Acker to White, 2-1. Well, the Blue Jays certainly can testify about that. They have hit several balls well to center field and left center tonight that have died and been run down by either Smith or Wilson. 2-2 now. This is to take nothing away from the Royals, but Sheridan's fly ball would not have been out under other circumstances, and Barfield would have caught Sundberg's drive without the powerful wind as well. White just reaches for one, hits it softly into center. Here comes Mosby, but no, it drops, and another run comes home. And it's 6-1 Kansas City.
Frank White playing with a damaged top hand. A breaking ball from Acker. He hit it with one hand, just his left hand, Frank White, but he gets an RBI. That's why he was moved down in the lineup to the 8th slot yesterday and again today. Hasn't taken batting practice as it's swollen.
Biancalana, the 8th man to hit in the inning. Stieb's control really is what did him in before his departure. He walked Bret with 1 out, and that might have been semi-intentional. But then on a 1-2 pitch, he hit McRae. That got him in hot water. He had the count 2-2 on Balboni and let him slip away, walked in to load the bases. Sundberg sent them all home with a triple. Now Acker comes in, and White just drops one softly into center field in front of Mosby, and it's 6-1. Biancalana bounces to Garcia. The flip to Fernandez for the force. This is the first time in the series that the Royals have scored more than 2 runs in an inning. McRae is among those celebrating. The Blue Jays have 4 more turns at bat, but right now it looks good for the Show Me State to get baseball's showcase event. Kansas City and St. Louis staring at a World Series matchup.
It looked like the great play by Fernandez was going to get Stieb out of that inning, but 2 walks and hit batsmen. There were only 2 hits. Sundberg's wind-blown one off the pipe from right field. Those walks and hit batsmen killed him. And Dick Hauser's bullpen is still loaded. Nobody up now, but he's got a lot of people to go to if Liebrandt gets into trouble.
1-2 to George Bell. Slide out and double. Bell drives one down the left field line, well foul.
Liebrandt has always got you a little out in front, as he did Bell just then, a little bit behind. Something on, something off, in, out, up, down. Bat against him and never see the same pitch twice in a couple of appearances. Gives you those nice, comfortable 0 for 4s. A bit like a left-handed catfish hunter. Didn't have Hunter's slider, but same change of speeds, never the same speed. There he runs this in the way, takes something off. And he knows this, that against a very eager, aggressive, young hitting ball club like the Blue Jays, he can get away with not having to throw strikes, and that's what he just did to George Bell. Got him to go after the pitch out of the strike zone. Very simply say, which veterans will do, I don't have to have my good stuff, don't have to challenge you with hard stuff. You get yourself out of time.
Liebrandt has struck out 4 since coming in to start the 4th. Witt's 1 for 2. Pops it up. Bret and Sundberg over. Bret has room in front of the Blue Jay dugout. He makes the catch.
There are times when you don't even have to watch a ball game. Just listen for the sound and you can tell it's Liebrandt pitching, because very seldom do you hear a real solid crack off the bat when he's pitching. End of the bat, handle.
Unless Barfield reaches, it'll be the first inning in which the Blue Jays have been retired in order. They have already left 7 men on base. In contrast, the Royals have left 3, and perhaps more tellingly, they've left only 1 in an inning in which they did not score. 2 of the 3 men they've left have been guys who have gotten RBI hits.
And perhaps this is as good a time as any for the young Blue Jays hitters to learn, if they haven't already, and it's taken them a long time, that they don't have to hit a home run every time up. You're down by 5 runs, take some pitches, maybe get a walk, try for a single, not try and take everything downtown.
Trio pitch coming with Fernandez on deck. Walked him on 4 pitches. Ernie Witt hoping against some very long odds that the Blue Jays can suddenly jump up and get back in this. Bill Caudle, yeah, he's the guy they signed. Back up a little bit. There's Henke, but come back toward Caudle. Martinez behind Henke. There is Bill Caudle. He was to be their ace, he and Lavelle, when they got him from Oakland and the deal that sent Alfredo Griffin and Dave Collins out to the West Coast. But Caudle has been a phantom in this series.
Well, I think that's the thing about this Blue Jay ball club. If you'd said that Upshaw and Mosby would have relative off years in the 3 and 4 spot, and Lavelle would be up and down, Caudle not be the stopper, you'd say no way they could go into this league championship series having won 99 games in the regular season. Won the first 2 here.
Or for that matter, some of their position players Mosby, Upshaw, people like that.
Gary Blaylock out now. He's too high in the strike zone. They're going to find out now after having pitched in game 4 and gone into the 9th if he isn't losing a little bit. Sundberg had already made a trip out. Gary Blaylock sent out by Dick Hauser, and while that's going on, they're going to start the pen going.
Well, those are just a couple of catchers we were looking at. Jamie Quirk and John Wathan getting ready to warm somebody up.
Maybe Farr again. He was up last inning, and it doesn't take him long. Steve Farr pops out very quickly.
Lee Brandt to Fernandez again. A called strike, 2-1. Hit well into the left center gap by Fernandez. Lonnie Smith gets there and makes the catch, and the wind really pushed that baby down.
He battled the lights, too. Those looping liners could give you trouble, but he stuck with it. Outran it, then he battled the lights.
The Blue Jays leave their 8th runner back after this from your local station. Game 7 of the 1985 American League Championship Series is brought to you by light beer from Miller, everything you've always wanted in a beer and less. By Ford and your local Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Midas for expert service on mufflers, brakes, and shocks. Trust the Midas touch. And by Kentucky Fried Chicken. We do chicken right. And the Kansas City Royals have been doing plenty right ever since the end of Game 4. Goodyear Blimp Enterprise overhead, helping to provide the pictures. 2-0 to Lonnie Smith. Jim Acker on the mound as we start the 7th.
The Royals have hit 7 home runs in this league championship series. The Blue Jays 2. Ironically, the Blue Jays hit their 2 home runs in Kansas City, the bigger ballpark, both in the same game, same inning. Mulnix and Barfield.
Orge takes care of Lonnie Smith to start the 7th.
So if you start talking about possible comebacks by the Blue Jays, they're going to have to do something they haven't done, but with 1 inning. Try and get the long ball and get 2 or 3 runs back in a hurry. In the regular season, Blue Jays out-homered Kansas City by 4 home runs, 158 to 154.
Wilson with 9 hits in the series, but 0 for 3 tonight. Takes a strike. Top of the order in the bottom of the 7th for Toronto. 1-1.
The 2 best pitching staffs during the regular season in the American League, if you go by ERA, Toronto was 1st, Kansas City 2nd. And pitching has pretty much dominated this thing. Royals have had difficulty almost all year long generating big innings. They seem to have done it while it counts.
As we said earlier, in the heat of the pennant race, the Blue Jays never trailed in their division. First place from May 13th on. The Yanks got as close as a game and a half. And Wilson goes down swinging. He's now 0 for 4. And they made the Blue Jays go to the second to last day of the regular season before clinching it, but they never had command. The Blue Jays were always in control. The Blue Jays were always in control of this series. Ahead 2 games to none, ahead 3 games to 1. The first time, then, that they have trailed in a true sense, either in the regular season or in the playoffs, will be the time that sends them home for the year. Bret. Strike 1 on the outside corner. Dick Hauser.
And not once has he panicked. You've never seen it in his face. You can see some pain in that man's face right now, though, can't you? He is a brilliant manager. He and the man across the field are going to get a lot of votes for Manager of the Year of the American League, and I would rate it almost a toss-up.
And they are close friends, and although it may sound trite, 2 extremely nice men. You'd have to feel happy for whichever one comes out of here with a ticket to the World Series and share some of the pain with the loser. Call, 3rd strike, and Bret knew it. second time tonight that Bret is fanned. They may be able to win it without an important contribution from their main man.
The following message is furnished by Major League Baseball.
1985 has been a record-breaking year for me and for the whole family of baseball. Like any family, we've had some problems, and we're working hard to solve them. But there have been some great performances, too. Take that gentleman in California and that kid in New York. And, of course, my forever young teammate in Chicago. So from all of us in the family of baseball to our family of friends, thanks for sharing a great season.
Major League Baseball, a family tradition. Share it all.
A look at the teams that have overcome 3-1 deficits in World Series play. And as we pointed out earlier in the series, the last three, the 58 Yankees, the 68 Tigers, and most recently the 79 Pirates, all won the fifth game at home, and then the last two against pretty sizable odds on the road. And that's exactly what Kansas City is poised to do tonight.
Blue Jays had a chance to jump ahead early. They left at least one man on in each of the first 6 innings. They left the bases loaded in the first.
Two and 0 to Garcia.
There's the Quiz. Begins getting loose. Leibrandt showed some signs of getting wild the last inning.
If the Royals hang on here, the scene will be not unlike what we saw at Dodger Stadium earlier today as Garcia fouls it back. All the celebrating done by about 25 or 30 men in front of a stunned and disappointed losing crowd. The big celebrations to take place at the airports.
If this lead holds up.
Hits softly, either White or Biancalana, and it's the veteran White who makes the catch.
Again, Leibrandt falls behind Garcia 2-0, comes back and still hits him on the fifth.
Center fielder, number 15, Lloyd Mosby.
Mosby with Orge on deck. By the way, for statistical purposes, the official scorer will be able to award a victory if Kansas City wins to Saberhagen or Leibrandt. It's back to Leibrandt. And Mosby becomes the second out because although Saberhagen did not work the required 5 innings for a starter to get a victory, there is an exception if you leave because of an injury. However, if Leibrandt stays around long enough to complete this game, I would guess that they would award the victory to him.
Joe Sawchuk, one of the official scorers, a Torontonian, and Dal Black of the Kansas City newspaper scoring today. Just 2. Ordinarily, they have 3 for big events like this.
Strike 1 to Orge. The Blue Jays have had at least 1 runner in every inning. 2 out, nobody on here in the 7th. Biancalana comes in. They go down 1-2-3 for the first time tonight. 6 outs standing between Charlie Leibrandt and the rest of his teammates and their trip to the World Series.
Leading off the 8th for the Royals, the designated hitter.
Kansas City takes their 6-1 lead into the 8th. And again, we remind you, we'll select the NBC Light Beer from Miller Player of the Game at the conclusion of the contest.
There's always a lot of milling around between innings in this ballpark, but now some of the people are heading up the aisles and carrying their coats, their little tote bags. They may be just going back to get some standing room and beat the crowd and not leaving the ballpark. You can see there's a lot of movement, a lot of it outwardly. There's something going on in the right field corner. There's something was thrown on the field, apparently at one of the umpires again. Remember one of the games, first 2 games here, where Davy Phillips had to come in from the right field foul line after he made the call on Mosby that it was not a catch. They apparently have thrown something out there again. Some idiot, I think Vin Scully in one of the ball games used a great line, said they ought to take the first if they catch him, just put him in a little rubber room all by himself and let him bang his head against the wall. And charge him some dough also. Some idiot threw a bottle out there apparently.
Darrell Cousins is the umpire down the right field line at whom it was directed. Well, we have a chance. A reminder, tomorrow night on NBC, it's the best night of television on television. It starts with The Cosby Show, followed by Family Ties, Cheers, Night Court, and Hill Street Blues. It all begins at 8 Eastern, 7 Central, and Mountain Time tomorrow.
There have been calls missed by the umpires in this series. We've shown them to you. We don't try and beat a dead horse, but everybody's interesting. But I really don't think, and everybody knows on both teams, and I think Bobby Cox said it, Mosby, even George Bell later on, not one ball game has been cost at this point, as far as we can see, by an umpire. Yeah, Doyle Alexander, there may have been a pitch missed yesterday where he walked Sundberg, the lead-up hitter, and then he came back to backfire on him. Umpires don't lose it. Teams do.
Ball one high to McRae. When McRae was hit by a pitch from Stieb in the 6th inning, it turned out to be a crucial mistake for the Blue Jay right-hander. Shortly thereafter, Sundberg cleared the bases with a 3-run triple. 1-1 the count. Sundberg has 4 RBIs tonight. On the ground to Orge at third base. 1 out in the 8th.
It's a team, as you look at the Blue Jays behind Acker now, down by 5, is very listless, and they've got every reason to be that way. But they still know they've got to play the game right. There's still the chance, although a remote one, they could come back. They haven't done it before very often.
Good commotion you hear, a fan out on the field, and he is gang tackled and taken away to a place where he might have a chance to gather his thoughts. They are unhappy thoughts for these Blue Jay fans right now. And good luck to Al Michaels, Jim Palmer, and Tim McCarver in their coverage of the World Series on ABC. It begins in the American League City on Saturday night. The Cardinals providing the opposition from the National League. For all of us at NBC, executive producer Mike Weissman, Harry Coyle, our coordinating producer of baseball, good luck to the folks at ABC in bringing the Fall Classic home to all the fans.
Well, they know they already have the speed of the St. Louis Cardinals. Don't know how much action Vince Coleman will see. Apparently getting better all the time. The rest will give him help. 3 starts possibly for Tudor, who will be the game opener for St. Louis. What a shot that was after Jack Clark's home run. First base open, a fastball that hit off Niedenfuhr to see Herzog with his arm around Joaquin Andujar.
Sheridan spanks one into center, but Mosby is there, and that's the second out. Well, there aren't too many guys, sometimes including Dwight Gooden, who can throw their best fastball past Jack Clark. He will hit the heat about as well as anybody in the business, and he did it to Niedenfuhr and the Dodgers today.
And he hits one to deep left field, and that one is gone. And Lasorda got the answer to his rhetorical question. Something about, should I walk this guy and pitch to that so-and-so? Well, he didn't walk him.
What a deal that turned out to be. Clark from the Giants, Tudor over from the Pirates, Coleman up from Louisville, McGee with his best year, Ozzie is most productive at the plate, the bullpen by committee, Herzog's in the series. 2-1 pitch to Balboni. Foul back. If, in fact, it's the Cardinals and the Royals in the series, what an intriguing matchup it will be because of Herzog's roots in Kansas City.
Well, they are really a bunch of restless people down the right field foul line that they're trying to control. The security guard, don't know specifically what's going on, but they're lined up all over the place trying to get some calm.
Generally speaking, Blue Jay crowds are very well behaved. There is happiness over their success, but not much venom after Blue Jay failures. But there is some frustration at work here. They led the series 3-1, and it has slowly slipped away.
The lowest crowd of the 4 games here, 32,084 tonight. Al Widmar in the middle with Ken Carson and Bobby Cox, of course.
2-2 pitch. Full count to Balboni, who walked his last time. In fact, walked to load the bases ahead of the Sundberg triple. There's no disguising the hurt.
A man who was fired at Atlanta, then rumors cropped up again within the last couple of weeks that he was #1 on the list. Chuck Tanner's got that job, of course, now.
Balboni is now fanned 8 times in the series, and you can see how little that concerns his mates. They're looking toward the World Series. In a way, there's a cruel and senseless mentality that pervades a good part of the sports world. The mentality that labels everyone but the ultimate winner as a loser. This young team won 99 games. They'll be back for more next year. They were within a game of going to the World Series. And Royals fans can commiserate with their Toronto counterparts, because in 5 previous trips to the League Championship Series, the Royals have lost 4 times. And with the exception of the sweep last year at the hands of Detroit, all those losses were bitter. The 3 in a row when Herzog was their manager, 76, 77, 78, in great series with a powerful Yankee club.
And Pat Killick has won a division this year while he is still in the building process. The young man to the right, Manny Lee, a 20-year-old switch-hitting shortstop from the Dominican Republic, San Pedro de Macorís. Cecil Fielder moved in. In fact, there were 5 Blue Jays players who got their first major league hit this year.
1-2 to Upshaw, leading off in the 8th. Upshaw, Cliff Johnson, and George Bell.
And while Lee Brandt keeps going after Willie Upshaw, that man's warming up in the bullpen. His last outing a good one, but he struggled during a great part of this League Championship Series. Oliver beat him twice. Dan Quisenberry.
Struck him out. And Lee Brandt now, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 strikeouts since he came in the 4th. As the saying goes, I'm from Missouri, and you've got to show me. Neither the Royals nor the Cardinals were convinced when they opened by losing the first 2 games of the series on the road. When they got back on familiar ground, the Cardinals won 3 in a row. The Royals managed to take 2 out of 3. The Cardinals got the game they needed on enemy turf in the 6th this afternoon. The Royals performed a more difficult task. They're on the verge of winning 2 in a row at Toronto to set up the All-Missouri Series. Johnson lifts one to the right side. Frank White goes back in behind Balboni and in front of Sheridan, and it's in White's glove.
If there is a need for Bobby Cox of the Blue Jays to send a pinch hitter up, as we watch this windblown fly ball again, everybody helping out.
The left fielder, number 11, George.
Frank holds on to it. Not much experience off the bench anymore. Only Burroughs with a lot of experience from the right side, and then Jeff Herron and Cecil Fielder, 2 right-handed hitters. First-year player Luce Thornton, first-year left-hander. Manny Lee, switch-hitting young Dominican. That was Burroughs on deck.
Bell swings on the first one. White ranges to his left, turns around and pegs him out. So for the 2nd consecutive inning, Lee Brandt has retired Bobby Cox's troops in order. Sundberg will lead off in the 9th. A look back to the 6th with the bases loaded. He goes the opposite way off Dave Stieb. The wind aids it. It almost gets out of the yard. It hits the top of the metal railing, stays in play for a 3-run triple.
And the thing about those 3 runs that scored, none of the runners that scored ahead of Sundberg hit their way on. A walk, the Bret McRae hit by a pitch, Balboni a walk, Fernandez made the great play that looked like it may be the one that got Stieb out of the inning before Sundberg hit that short area with the wind pushing it to the pipe.
Sundberg has hit for the cycle in the series. He has 4 hits in 7 games, a single, a double, a triple, and a homer. And has he ever made them count for a series-leading 6 RBIs? 1-2 pitch to Sundberg. He smacks it, and Fernandez backhands from what would be the outfield grass. He throws him out. Well, nothing can dull the luster of this young man's performance.
We've seen his brilliance about a half a dozen times in these 7 ball games. Earlier in this game, when he got Bret on Sheridan's ball that looked like it was a base hit to left, he's become the team leader, or one of the team leaders, in his first full season. It's been a great year for baseball. Not over yet, but the chances of them bouncing back and coming up with 5 runs, somewhat remote with Kansas City's pitching staff. But they drew almost 2.5 million to the ballpark that really has only 16,000 good seats. Averaged about 32,000 per game, and I would guess that over the 81 home games played here that this is probably as quiet as any crowd has ever been.
Another chance for Fernandez. Another backhand pickup and throw, and he pulled Upshaw off the bag. And Frank White is safe.
Tony Fernandez to his right. Orge can't get it. A little off target. First base umpire Dale Ford says that Upshaw's foot is off the bag, and Woolley doesn't give him any argument.
So it brings up Biancalana, who takes a ball. E6 is the ruling.
That's tough air. With the length of the throw he had going to his right, Frank White, who still runs very well.
Biancalana gives Mosby an easy chance in center field. 2 out in the top of the 9th. The overwhelming majority of Fernandez's 30 errors during the regular season came on throws.
And many of them are because he's throwing on the run, because he's gotten to a ball that Leicester's shortstop would not have gotten to or even attempted to make a throw.
Less than a week ago, Dick Hauser, one of the game's best managers, had a playoff log of 0-11. But he's on the verge of taking 4 of the next 5 and taking plenty of vindication into the World Series. Lonnie Smith shoots one up the middle for a 2-out hit. Vindication when you talk about some of the fans who get testy and the few in the media who may have been on his case. But if they had lost this series 4 straight, no knowledgeable baseball person would have thought one bit less of Dick Hauser, an excellent manager. And nor will any knowledgeable person think one bit less of Bobby Cox, who has done a great job with this Blue Jay team, even if they let this one slip away.
And I think the statement in this series that thus far, unless there's a big comeback by the Blue Jays, stands out in my mind more than other after they were down 2-0, the Royals, when the soul of the team, Hal McRae, said, we seem to only play well when we have to. And boy, they had to, and they have played well.
Mosby again will go to the bottom of the 9th.
Time called now as some debris coming out in the field as somebody throwing what looks like a golf ball onto the field in left field, and Willie Wilson had to flip it out of the way. Royals now getting set to go. Quisenberry, 3-2 pitch. A call, strike 3. That's it. The Royals go to the World Series as they beat the New York Yankees 4-2 here in Yankee Stadium. The Royals pouring out onto the field. Leaping up and down, there's Leonard and Walkman and Gordy McKenzie and the whole crew on the field as the Kansas City Royals, for the first time, winners of the American League pennant.
the game, it's your late local news, except out on the West Coast, and the Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson, and Late Night with David Letterman. Jeff Burrows will come on to hit. He'll bat for Ernie Witt to start the bottom of the ninth. Lynn Jones is the new left fielder, replacing Lonnie Smith for defense. And the Quiz, just in case, is throwing in the bullpen. Burrows, the former MVP, when he was with the Texas Rangers. Later hit 40-plus homers for Bobby Cox in Atlanta. Started the year as the DH, replaced by the tandem of Cliff Johnson and Al Oliver.
The pause right here is, from what I can see through my binoculars, time is called. There was a person down on his back, and you can still see his feet flat out on his back. Apparently has fallen out of the stands. We will not give you more than that, so that we will not alarm anybody, because we do not have a report. And a lot of unruly behavior, it appears. Quisenberry going over. Somebody apparently has fallen out of the stands, and all the Royals are out. The game is being held up. And we obviously hope there's not a serious injury down there. Security people are there. The medical people are rushing to his side. Some of the grounds crew are there. And that is further deadened the crowd here at Exhibition Stadium, Toronto. They're on the walkie-talkies up to the first aid department.
And meanwhile, Lee Brandt is going to throw a few pitches as they bring a stretcher out for the fallen fan. And what we are looking at eventually here, unless the Blue Jays stage a miracle rally, is a less than festive surrounding for a remarkable baseball achievement by the Royals. Obviously, hearts are soaring back in the Kansas City area and for miles and miles around, because the Royals are really a regional franchise, but not in this surrounding. The celebration will be entirely in the Royals clubhouse.
They're bringing some medical supplies in. Apparently a doctor had come, and now it looks like another medical person down to help out, very quickly reacting to the situation down in the right field corner.
Obviously, the ambulance was at the ready just beyond the opening in the right field fence, and we will not hazard a guess as to the condition of the fallen fan.
George Brett has walked in this ball game, and he struck out twice and grounded out, but he has set a bunch of American League and League Championship Series records along the way, and I would think he is the front runner, if not to be the winner, of a new trophy that will be presented to the MVP for the first time. The Leland McPhail Jr., former American League President, Most Valuable Player Trophy. And how aptly that award is named after Lee McPhail, who probably did more to prevent a long strike this year than anybody else. Marvelous, marvelous man.
1-2 to Burrows, batting for Witt in the bottom half of the ninth. As you say, Tony, this is the first year that the MVP award in the American League Championship Series will bear Lee McPhail's name. They began designating a most valuable player back in 1980. Lee Brandt tosses to Balboni, and Burrows is gone. More people to thank, including the executive producer of NBC Sports, Mike Weissman. Coordinating producer of baseball, Harry Coyle. Tonight's producer, John J. Filippelli, and director, John Gonzalez. Pre-game show was produced by Les Dennis, directed by Bucky Gunts. Replays coordinated by Ken Edmondson, technical director Lenny Stucker. And some fans run across the field carrying a Canadian flag, and that draws one of the biggest ovations of the night. It also draws a swarm of security people. And they descend like locusts.
We didn't get a chance, because we had conflicting schedules at times, being out of the ballpark, to see all of the National League Championship Series, but Harry Coyle, our coordinating producer and director of baseball for so many years, George Finkel, the producer there, and Ben and Joe, you guys did an outstanding job. Congratulations.
Talking about the MVP award, they began designating an MVP back in 1980. Frank White of the Royals won it then in the 3-game sweep over the Yanks. Strike one to Barfield. Greg Nettles the next year for the Yankees. In '82, Fred Lynn for the Angels, the only time a member of the losing team has won it. 2 quick strikes. Mike Boddicker of the Orioles in 1983 with that shutout performance against the White Sox with the 14 strikeouts. And Kirk Gibson of the Tigers last year.
The Royals have been through a worse situation than this before. I remember the Philadelphia, Kansas City, when in the 9th inning, they ran all those mounted policemen out, got the wives out for the Royals in Philadelphia, and a complete circle of police officers and dogs to prevent fans from getting unruly.
Barfield draws a reaction with a 1-out base hit.
Something to excite this Blue Jay crowd. They haven't had much of that, as Lee Brandt had retired 8 consecutively.
It's their first base runner since a walk to Barfield in the 6th, and their first hit since an Upshaw double in the 5th.
The shortstop,
They need to put 3-4 base hits together, a walk or so, maybe a boot, and have somebody pop one. Remote, but not impossible.
And this is hit down the right field line, and Sheridan won't get it. Fernandez wants a double, and that's what he has. 2nd and 3rd and 1 out.
Who knows?
Here comes Hauser.
He had Lee Brandt standing around an awful long time, stiffening up, while everybody was running out in the field, and that accident in the right field corner. So Bobby Cox, if nothing else, let's force Quisenberry in this ball game, and who knows what might happen. Somebody might get one in the wind.
Early in the year, when Lee Brandt was twice being named the pitcher of the month in the American League, Willie Wilson said, "It's not Lee Brandt, it's Rembrandt." It hasn't exactly been a masterpiece tonight, but he's brought them to the verge of the pennant. That is the very valuable right hand of Bret Saberhagen, and you can see the swelling in the area around the thumb. He is seated with Dick Enberg and can still manage a smile, and why not? At age 21, he's about to get a chance to play in the World Series. But the Blue Jays have 2 outs left and 2 men on. Garcia's 1 for 4, and Quisenberry is ready. Strike one. So Quisenberry couldn't get it done in Game 2 or Game 4. But he was on the mound to close it out, striking out Garth Orge in Game 6. And appropriately, he may be the closer here.
4 innings pitched thus far. He has allowed 7 base hits, 4 runs, but only 2 earned.
The Royals are about to break the stranglehold the American League East has had on the pennant. 4 in a row, 9 out of 10. The only interruption, the Royals win over the Yankees in 1980. 1 and 2.
As he has said of himself, I don't slam the door like Gossett, Suter, fingers in his prime. I close it very gently. Trying to do that now.
Just as securely.
Not as much this year as in the past. He still led the league with 37 saves.
Quisenberry. The throw, got him. A run scores. Fernandez moves to 3rd. And the Blue Jays are down to their last out. Those 2 guys are close friends. Cox and Hauser, they coached together with the Yanks in the 70s. They were teammates briefly with the Yankees. Ralph Hout, their manager and mentor, in 1968.
They see it right around the corner, but there's still always that little bit of an uncertainty until that last out. Still an uneasiness as Hauser was still pacing like a tiger.
The Jays need 2 more base runners to bring the tying run to the plate. Strike one to Mosby.
In fact, that was one of the first times we've seen Dick Hauser very mobile at all. And there's Bobby Cox, who is hurting inside right now. This all started way back before March 1st, way last winter.
And this may do it for the Royals. For the second time in their history, they're on their way to the World Series. And almost in a vacuum, the celebration begins. And as you look at Bobby Cox, you realize Leo DeRocher was wrong. Nice guys don't finish last. Sometimes they finish a very close second. But another nice guy is in the middle of that celebration, Dick Hauser, so criticized by some when the record went to 0-11. And so much on top of the world right now.
They had a long way to come back. If they went back to Kansas City down by 2, and then they had to win it right here in Exhibition Stadium, where Toronto had one of the best home records in all of baseball.
George Brett got our vote as the MVP of the series. There were other people to consider. We put Dave Stieb second despite the loss tonight. We don't know officially who's going to get that award. We'll have the information for you if we can. There is Brett. Pain etched on the face of Ernie Witt. We have to make a decision about tonight's MVP. What do you think?
Congratulations to the Kansas City Royals.
Sundberg?
Well, Sundberg got the hit off the pole. 3 RBIs. Liebrat was good. Sheridan got a home run, a single, a couple of 3 runs scored. But I'd go with Sundberg.
As we look at the Royals clubhouse, back out on the field, many of the fans are on their feet, applauding appreciatively, not only for the opponent, the Royals, which is a class move, but to thank the Blue Jays for this splendid season, probably the first of many seasons of success for this young franchise.
In only their 9th year, they push the Kansas City Royals to the final out.
So as the season came down to its final moments, there was legitimate speculation about a Subway Series, about a Freeway Series, about an International World Series involving a Canadian team. What we get is an all-Missouri series, and we get Dick Enberg. Dick?
George Brett, the most valuable player. Thank you. I appreciate it very much. Well, before game 3, Dick, you were 0-11, and you said, hey, it's still only 1 at a time, 3 out of 5, and you'd be sitting home, and Toronto would be in at 4 out of 7 measured, Dick, just right. I've been around it long enough. You never know what's going to happen in this game. Nobody's ever sure what's going to happen. We've been like a lot of clubs. We've had our backs to the wall, but these guys never got down, and certainly we weren't overconfident, but I think our guys felt like our pitch is good enough to keep us in games. And that's what we wanted for us. Your first World Series. Yeah, well, not as a coach, I had a couple, but as a manager, yes, and we're looking forward to it. Who will be your pitcher on Saturday? I don't know. I haven't had a chance to talk to Gary Blaylock, but whoever it is, he'll be a quality pitcher because we've got good pitching on this ball club. Danny Jackson? I don't know yet. Saberhagen okay? Yeah, well, we're going to have him looked at tomorrow. We're not real sure, but I hope he can pitch in the series. He's been a great pitcher for us this year. Congratulations. Thank you, Dick. Good luck in the series. Thank you very much. Manager Dick Hauser, always first and second, his credentials without argument. And George Brett, most valuable player, carried the team in game 3. His very presence, even the walk in the key inning tonight. And your buddy Jim Sundberg had that right field fence measured just right.
Oh, that was sweet. That was sweet. The wind was blowing out to right a little bit. The ball wasn't carrying the left, and Sonny looked like he had his mind made up. He was just going to try to hit the ball to right field, hit the top of the wall for a triple, and it was the big hit of the ball game for us.
You're down 3-1. Was there a play or an event that you think back on that gave you hope that you could win these final 3? I mean, that's almost unprecedented. Only 4 of the clubs have ever done it.
Oh, maybe Danny Jackson. They had runners on second and third and nobody out, and he held them in game 4. I think that might have been the big one. Or game 5. That was game 5 Sunday. He ended up pitching it shutout. Beat him 2-0, but I think that was the big one.
Whitey Herzog, you're going to see him again.
Yeah, it's the first time I've ever played against Whitey. I'm looking forward to it. He taught me a lot about the game of baseball, and congratulations, Whitey. We're going to be shooting for you, though.
So it's I-70, George Brett, the Royals against Whitey Herzog, Jack Clark, and Ozzie, and the St. Louis Cardinals. It's an all-Missouri World Series for the first time in a long time, going back to the Browns and the Cardinals. Let's go back to Bob Costas.
All right, Dick, thank you very much. And at the conclusion of the telecast today from Dodger Stadium, you saw a montage of Cardinal emotions, Ozzie Smith and his jubilation, the big home run by Jack Clark. Let's do the same as the second component of this all-Missouri World Series is now in place. A look back at some of the sweet moments for the Kansas City Royals. Bret on defense in Game 3. This is where the comeback started. Bret with the 4-for-4 game. 2 of the hits home runs. They were down 2-0 coming into that game. They won it 6-5. The next night, the Blue Jays won 3-1 and went ahead 3-1 in the series. But the defense of Willie Wilson was part of the Royals' comeback. Here he robs George Bell against the wall. Both Bobby Cox and Dick Howser said before the series began, they favored the shift from best 3 out of 5 to best 4 out of 7. If the old format had been in place, Cox would have been in the World Series days ago. Saberhagen, who took a beating, a shot off the heel. Upshaw's ball hit off his hand tonight, but that won't lessen the smile on that buoyant young man's face. Remember the juggling act by Jim Sundberg last night? He and Bret exchanged smiles after this one. And Sundberg, by the way, is tonight's MVP with his 4 RBIs, including the bases-clearing triple. And Light Beer from Miller will send a check for $1,000 in the name of Jim Sundberg to help fight multiple sclerosis. Sheridan had only 3 hits in the series, but 2 of them were homers. This one, right over the Royals emblem in right field, made it 2-0 early in the ball game. And that is Sundberg's triple, hitting the top of the railing as Barfield looks around in confusion and disbelief. McRae was the first one to come across, the first of 3 Royals to score on that hit by Sundberg.
And to both the Royals and the Blue Jays organization, the managers Bobby Cox, Dick Howser, and the players, thanks, fellas. Gave us a lot of thrills this year, and during this 7-game League Championship Series, you were both marvelous.
Remember the scene from Game 3 when Bret presented the ball for his first victory to Dick Howser? What a touching scene that was. And on the other side, Dave Stieb. So outstanding in his first 2 performances, but not quite up to it on 3 days rest tonight. Garth Orge. His brother Dane is going to the World Series in a Royals uniform. These young Blue Jays will be back. Tony Fernandez destined for a career that will see him achieve all-star status many times. You can bet on that. The eyes of Bobby Cox. So close. So very close. Last play, Frank White, 6 times a Gold Glover to Steve Balboni. And the Royals are on their way to the World Series. Good luck to Al Michaels, Jim Palmer, and Tim McCarver in their coverage for ABC. Congratulations to Dick Howser and company.